Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Menace.
Here.
Commissioner Segerbrook.
Here.
Commissioner Renzi. Commissioner Heinen.
Here.
Commissioner Green.
Here.
Commissioner Womack. Chairman Kiefer.
Present.
Park District. School District. Fire District. Library District.
Thank you. In your package, you have the minutes from the September 20th, 2016 Plan Commission. Any requests for changes or adjustments? Okay, hearing none, the minutes will be accepted as presented. At this time, do we have any public comments for any items that are not on our agenda this evening? Nothing on the agenda that would like to be addressed? Okay, so hearing none from the public, we'll move on to the development report. Do we have one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, the Village Board did meet last night and took action on two cases that have been before the Plan Commission or Zoning Board of Appeals. The first is that the board did approve a sign variance for St. Mary Immaculate Parish. For the monument sign, there were three provisions of that variance relative to the maximum height of the structure, the overall sign area, and then the percentage of the sign that could be electronic message board. So there was some discussion of potential implications of the variance on a broader scale. And so just for information, next Monday at the Committee of the Whole meeting, the board will be taking up a series of proposed zoning code text amendments that were partly an outcome of the joint meeting between the Plan Commission and the Village Board that was held back in January. So it's taken staff some time to kind of get caught up and work those, the direction that the discussion that was held earlier in the year into a formal proposed zoning code amendment. We're going to try and compile a handful of things that have been discussed that would include regulation of certain uses as special uses, things such as salons and some other uses that there was some discussion about potentially having a little bit more case-by-case control over those. Regulation of food trucks and incorporating that a little bit more formally into the zoning code, and potentially some streamlining of the site plan review ordinance and the sign code. So
With the sign code, is there some thought to, is it going to be overall changes, or are you just looking at maybe some special exceptions along Route 59, or?
I think at this point, the consensus in January, and I'll have to confer with the minutes in my notes, but the consensus was to remain fairly consistent with our current regulations. I think staff's comfortable, and I hope the Plan Commission and the Village Board likes the overall environment that our site plan review ordinance produces and the sign code contributes to. So I think the discussion was more in line of if this were to be a variance as opposed to just modifying the sign code to allow it by right. So that discussion will take place next Monday. And then separately, the board did take action to direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance for special use approval for the car wash. So that drive-through operation of the car wash is considered as to require a special use. So I know the final plat is on the agenda this evening, and staff would propose to present that ordinance as well as the site plan review and the final plat for board's consideration at the next meeting, pending the outcome of tonight's discussion. So that concludes the development report.
Thank you. We have no old business, so we'll move directly into new business. There was a request to move our second case up a notch to the first slot, so I think we will do that. So the first case we'll hear this evening is case number 1733-090-116.su.spr.fp. It's a Washoe Car Wash, and the request is for a final plat, with the applicant being Stephen Timmer. Do we have a planner's report regarding this case?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Commission. As John stated, last night, the Village Board approved the attorney to draft an ordinance for the next Village Board meeting to allow for the special use permit for the drive-through being proposed at Washoe Car Wash. They are proposing this at Lot 2 of Prairie Creek Development, be a 4,500 square foot car wash. Currently, the site is approximately 5.582 acres, fronting Illinois Route 59 at the Prairie Creek subdivision. They're proposing to subdivide the property into 1.04 acres. The minimum lot area for the B3 zoning district is 1 acre or 43,560 square feet. The proposed lot again is 1.04 acres or 45,500 square feet, and the minimum lot width required in the B3 zoning district is 100 feet, and they are providing 130 feet. The proposed final plat from initial reviews conforms to the subdivision planning and zoning criteria, and this will be contingent and subject to final engineering approval. From the last plan commission, there was a couple things that the commission were looking to address. One of the things that was associated with the plat was the ingress-egress drive cuts that were encroaching onto neighboring properties. The petitioner has since readjusted the site to conform to those requests, and so all the improvements will be located on Lot 2, so there will be no need for any ingress-egress easements or anything of that nature. So that will conclude my report. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Is anyone here representing the applicant? If you'd like to come over here. Thank you. Oh. All right. We'll make you walk as far as possible, apparently. You'd raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Is all testimony about to give tonight the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, could you please state your name for the recording secretary?
Steve Timmer.
And then would you like to add anything to the presentation we've heard already?
No, I think everybody's seen, and I don't want to, I know your time's valuable this evening. I would like to just take a second to thank everybody. Staff has been incredibly great. They've given us pointers and heads up prior to meeting any of you and the other board. And we adjusted typically within 24 hours. We jumped on it, and it seemed to go and meet everything they were looking for. I hope, Jake and Jonathan. But thank you very much. This will be our first we've got approval to build multiple locations, and there's only one first in your life, and Plainfield is going to be our first location. So, with your approval, of course.
Okay, thank you. And you can have a seat if anybody has a question. We'll just please remain available. Is there anybody from the public that would like to ask a question or make a comment regarding this case? Okay, hearing none, we will open this up to the commissioners if they have any comments or questions regarding this case. And again, you can take a look at the staff report. I think most of us that were here for the case when it came before us initially, the concerns seem to be addressed, but you're free to ask questions regarding this.
I got a question. So, is the plat here in our packet actually correct? Because it doesn't seem to match. I mean, you're saying it's now the lot's 45.5, and on here it's saying 44.719. So, did the lot get adjusted bigger again after?
Didn't get adjusted, so
I mean, did the lot increase in size from the last meeting when we saw the site plan, or just they were able to shift the driveways in and off, and the lot stayed the same size? Do you know?
I think the lot stayed the same size, correct? Okay.
Okay, so I mean, I see you have 130 feet on the frontage, and that matches, but on your staff, I mean, you're saying 45.5, and the plat's saying 44.719.
that
Obviously, it still exceeds the minimum, so.
Right.
Is that what's reflected up here on the screen? Is that the same as this?
Okay, well, yeah, we'll have to adjust
So
it
I mean,
if yeah.
so the plat's correct then? That's-
Right.
Okay, so just adjust it in your report
Yep.
then.
Are there any other comments or questions regarding this? Pretty straightforward. Yes, I will entertain a motion.
I move we recommend approval of the proposed Lot 2 final plat of subdivision of the Prairie Creek development, subject to the one stipulation in staff's report.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. Can we get a vote by roll call, please?
Mr. Segerbrook,
Yes.
Mr. Menace,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Heinen,
Yes.
Chairman Kiefer.
Yes. Okay, so the motion to recommend approval of the proposed Lot 2 final plat of subdivision of the Prairie Creek development, subject to the following stipulation found in staff report, which is compliance with the requirements of the village engineer, passes. Thank you for bringing your proposal before us. Good luck, and keep in touch with staff for the next stage, where I guess I'll go back to the village board. Okay. Okay, moving on with new business, going to case number 1723-0426, 16.AAA.MC, and it's Vista Point. And this is a request for a major change to the plan development. And its location is east of Ridge Road, north and south of Walker Road. The applicant is Tom Small. We have a planner's report regarding this case.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to acknowledge you may have received a report late. I apologize for that. I was at the office at a conference, and through the wonders of Microsoft and their new subscription model, I was not able to get that report to Mary Lee in a timely fashion, so I apologize for the delay. This case does require a public hearing, so staff would ask that the record reflect the appropriate notice has been published in accordance with state statute and local ordinance. While the current petition is new from the petitioner, the case itself is, and the project has been in the works for a number of years, approximately 10 years now, probably going on 11. The property was originally annexed into the village of Plainfield in 2005 and was originally proposed for development in 2008, at which time the developer at the time proposed a preliminary plat and special use for planned development for the portion north of Walker Road. So that preliminary plat and plan development was approved in 2008, and due to the timing of the housing downturn and the economic situation at that time, the project did not proceed to construction. As the Commission may recall, the applicant has been before the Plan Commission and the Board of Trustees earlier this summer to receive some preliminary input and direction on a concept plan for re-entitlement of the project. This is brought about primarily by some significant land use changes to the plan. School District 202 originally requested a school site on the project, on the property. So there's approximately 40 acres earmarked for a joint school and park site. That school site is no longer needed. So the applicant is proposing to convert that land use back to a residential use. Likewise, originally there was a clubhouse proposed, and with the economics of kind of current development, the days of the large, significant private clubhouse amenity are not in the cards, at least at the current time. So the acreage that was originally planned for that clubhouse use is now being proposed for a residential use. And then the third notable change is that what was originally identified as a 20-acre commercial node at the northeast corner of Ridge Road and Walker Road is now being proposed to be reduced. The project, just for context, I know the Commission is likely familiar, is towards the south end of the village's boundary. It's contiguous with the city of Joliet and/or the village's boundary agreement with Joliet. And as such, there were some considerations given to the densities for the original annexation approval. It was approved with a density of approximately 3.36 units per acre, which took into effect trying to transition from the existing lot sizes that were present on the Joliet side of the boundary agreement, and as well some of the land uses that were identified in the comprehensive plan. So village density, some higher density residential land uses. It's the petitioner's proposal to essentially extrapolate or take that same density range that's permitted by the comprehensive plan and by that original annexation agreement approval, and populate the areas that are now being converted to a residential use to achieve a similar unit count. From staff's calculation, the original plan and as proposed in 2008 proposed 750 units north of Walker Road. The developer is now requesting 870 units, so that's an increase of 120 units on don't have the exact acreage that's being added, but believe, over 50 acres between the school site and the clubhouse, and then the additional area that's being converted from proposed commercial to residential. The housing types is made up of a combination of townhomes, which are primarily located adjacent to Wheeler Road on the north, and then on the southernmost section of the pod south of Walker Road, as well as duplexes. And this is a change from the concept plan that the Plan Commission and Village Board considered earlier this summer. All of the duplexes from the original proposal had been proposed more recently as 6,000 square foot single-family detached lots. The developer understood some reservations on the part of the Plan Commission and the Board about the number of those 6,000 square foot lots. So that number has been reduced on the plan that's currently before you for formal consideration. And those units are now being proposed as a mix of duplexes and 6,000 square foot lots. In terms of detached single-family product, that would be proposed in a range of 6,000, 8,000, and 10,000 square foot lots. And again, those lot sizes are minimums. The actual average lot size for those lots would more than likely be higher than that. In terms of the entitlement path that the petitioner is seeking to be on here, what's before the Commission tonight is a request for a major change to the plan development, which is essentially treated as a special use. Staff applies the findings of fact that are required for a special use, including the findings associated with the plan development. If and when the project moves forward to the Village Board, the Board would consider action on that special use, and in addition would memorialize the modifications via an amendment to the annexation agreement as well. So there would be a public hearing before the Village Board for that action. But to move forward with any actual development or construction activity, the petitioner would again be back before the Plan Commission and the Village Board for consideration of an actual preliminary plat, which would show the lot configuration, the street layouts, all those details associated with the development, and potentially site plan review for the townhome component, and the final engineering associated with the development would follow. So this is, well, it's a significant request. It is still early in terms of the overall development process, and many of the details that one would expect to consider really would be appropriate to consider at the preliminary plat and or final plat stage, which would be somewhat down the road. So that's a very brief overview. Staff did analyze the project in consideration of the findings of fact that are associated with the special use and plan developments. This is working from a starting point of understanding the board determined with the original approval in 2008 of that plan development that these findings of fact have been demonstrated. So staff's analysis is really limited to the changes that are proposed by introducing residential where a school was once identified, where the clubhouse was once identified, the change to reduce the land acreage proposed for commercial development. Do those changes affect the findings of fact? So I'll run through those very briefly. The overall kind of general findings for any special use, there are two. The first is that the special use will not be injurious to use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate area for purposes already permitted. So this is probably a good point just to provide a little bit of the context of adjacent projects that have been approved but not yet proceeded to development. We have Walker Point immediately to the east on Walker Road. This project is, I believe, 4.25 units per acre. In terms of an overall density, it does include a combination of townhomes and single-family detached lots. To the north, we have the Combole property. This was approved at just shy of 2.4 units per acre for a density comparison, but it includes a series of lot sizes ranging from 8,000, 9,000, and 10,000 square feet. And then on the plan that you have, I know it's cut off just a little bit in this picture here, but to the west, Harmony Ridge is a project that was approved with a mixed-use project, significant commercial, as well as townhomes and some condominiums and detached single-family lots. And that, I believe, is, that one was actually the 4.25 units per acre. I apologize. I had my Walker Point and Harmony Ridge mixed up. Walker Point, the first one I noted, is again on the order of 3.3 units per acre, consistent with Vista Point here. So in terms of these proposed changes, staff feels that they would not be detrimental to uses permitted. And as you can see, the projects that have been annexed and are in the pipeline for development, staff feels that the proposed Vista Point project would be compatible and generally consistent in terms of the nature of the land uses and the proposed development. The second finding of fact is that the establishment of the special use would not impede normal and orderly development and improvement of adjacent properties for uses already permitted. And likewise, staff feels that the original project was compatible, and these changes do not detract from its compatibility with the adjacent properties. There are, I believe, 7 or 8 findings of fact associated with planned developments. I won't go through all of them. It's somewhat repetitive. There are, some overlap between the findings, but I'll just highlight a few here briefly. The first plan development finding is that the plan development fulfills the objectives of the comprehensive plan and the land use policies of the Village of Plainfield. One of the things that staff supports about the proposed project is that it provides for a range of housing types and sizes, ranging from townhomes, duplexes. We have single-family detached lots proposed at a variety of lot sizes that would allow for varying home sizes, potentially varying price points, and varying lifestyle choices for people depending on the type of house and amenities and maintenance and other things that they may seek. So staff feels that this project provides a broad spectrum of housing options, and that would be in fulfillment of the comprehensive plan and also the village's current strategic plan, which calls for quality housing across all options. The second finding that I would choose to highlight is that the project or the proposed land uses can reasonably be expected to fulfill a need or demand within the village. And staff feels that there is demand, and there will be in the future, will be demand for all types of housing options. Staff notes that this particular geographic location is well served by village utilities, whereas some other areas in the village that are greenfield opportunities may not have as close of proximity to the village's utilities. So water and sewer are present at the corner of County Line Road and Walker Road or Indian Boundary Road. Significant capacity in the Spring Hole Creek force main sewer, and the water capacity is there. So that addresses an additional finding here. The finding letter E. In terms of any bulk or density regulations and relief that is sought, staff feels that this would be integrated into the plan, fairly well contained. So it's not a matter of having deficient setbacks or smaller lots on the perimeter that would really impact adjacent undeveloped properties. Staff feels that it's an innovative, comprehensive, and well thought out plan in terms of that finding of fact. With respect to open space and recreation, there are 2 park sites, 2 larger neighborhood park sites proposed. This is in keeping with the Park District's preference for consolidated park sites, and staff would suspect that there would be an additional cash in lieu paid to fulfill the overall park obligation. Funds could be used to fund improvements to these park sites in cooperation with the Park District. At the final plat stage, or preliminary and final plat stage, staff would also look for opportunities to introduce some common area green space and other things that wouldn't be necessarily formally dedicated park space. But staff feels that this finding of fact has been demonstrated. I guess the last 3 are somewhat similar to the original special use findings, that the proposed changes, that the special use would not be injurious or detrimental to adjacent properties. So in summary, staff feels that the proposed plan is compatible with adjacent properties, would help fulfill several objectives of the comprehensive plan. Staff notes that much of the detailed plan review would be forthcoming in terms of preliminary and final plat and final engineering, but at this time staff would be seeking a favorable recommendation relative to the special use request. And that concludes the staff report.
Just to point out too, on your page 3 and 4 of your planner's report, at the top heading, do you notice that's, I think, in it? So just maybe amend that to reflect the proper case. You see what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Is there anyone here representing the applicant this evening? Could we get you to step over to the microphone to my left? Are you going to provide any testimony, or? Yeah, we're going to give you please, that's fine. Please step over to the microphone. I'll swear you in. If anybody's going to speak, I can swear you all in at once. If you could just raise your right hand, please. Is all testimony about to give this evening the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is.
Thank you. Could you please state your name for the recording secretary?
Sure, I'm Mike Shoppy with Shoppy Design Associates.
And please go ahead with your testimony.
John had done a very good job and a very thorough job given the background of the project. There's just a couple things that I wanted to add to it, and they're primarily as a result of the meeting that we had earlier in the summer. We had some good input, and I wanted to just identify how we addressed some of those thoughts and concerns that were brought up at that time. I think Commissioner Segerbrook had mentioned, or had identified a concern about the land uses that we had coming off of Wheeler. As we came south on Wheeler, we had townhomes that were fronting that main drive. And he brought up the idea of maybe looking at putting single-family homes on either side of the main entrance and pushing the townhomes closer or further to the west, closer to the commercial area. And that's exactly what we've shown here on that plan. That seems to work out just fine. One comment, I think Commissioner Heinen had brought up a comment about the stormwater management areas. You might recall the north part of Vista Point had a preliminary plan prepared, and at that time there was preliminary engineering that was done for that entire area north of Walker. And in the concept plan, what we've used is although we've moved the basins a little bit to reflect the new land uses, the overall land that we have set aside for stormwater management is consistent with that original engineering plan. Now that'll get refined and have to be looked at again as the more detailed plans come forward. But that was the basis for how the stormwater management area was laid out in this concept plan. And then similar to the south, on a percentage basis and looking at the drainage patterns, those basins that are down on the southern part, south of Walker, represent about the same percentage of land areas being set aside for stormwater management. The school, there was a couple questions that came up about the school site. As John had mentioned, the school district decided that they would rather have cash. We do have a letter. We actually had a letter back in April from the School District 202, that identifies that. And then I thought it was a good question that was brought up, that if there's not going to be an elementary school here on this property, where will these children go to school? So we looked into that, and of course those attendance boundaries can change a lot between now and when Vista Point is developed further. But currently, if you look at the attendance boundaries that the school district currently has, all three of the schools, elementary, middle, and high school, are all down off Caton Farm Road. The Ausable Middle School, that would be the elementary school that this area currently, the attendance boundary, or this site is currently in that attendance boundary. Also down there is the Thomas Jefferson Elementary School. And then, of course, Plainfield High School is right there at Caton Farm and Ridge, and that would be
South,
high school.
correct? Yeah. Plainfield South.
I'm sorry, Plainfield South, that's right. Can't read my notes, that's great. Okay. Of course, we heard a lot, a discussion about the 6,000 square foot lots. And so what we did make a change to that. We eliminated about 70 of those 6,000 square foot lots that we had proposed in that scheme that you saw earlier this summer. And that was in the neighborhood, the first neighborhood south of Walker and west of our main drive coming in. It's colored in a darker brown on this image. That was a neighborhood that was originally slated for 6,000 square foot lots. That's now been changed to a duplex neighborhood. So we eliminated those 6,000 square foot lots. So with that reduction, there's about 143 of the total units of the 1,390 total units. There's about 140 or 143 of those lots would be in that 6,000 square foot neighborhood range. Okay, and that's roughly 10% of our total. So those are the changes that we incorporated into the plan as a result of the input that we got earlier this summer, and I just wanted to highlight those.
Okay, thank you. And if you can just remain available for questions we might have. At this time, are there any questions from the public regarding this case? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, we'll move this to the commissioners. You're free to ask questions or comment on this.
Well, I think I have the questions were answered from before and from the presentation. Thank you for your presentation. But I'd like to comment on this. I grew up in Plainfield, and one of the things I really enjoyed about growing up in Plainfield was the fact that it was a suburban environment. It was a safe, it was a wide open place where the lot sizes are big and you have a lot of room to move about as a kid and etc. Looking at this density of 6,000 square foot lots, thousands of feet people can't really visualize. But if you look at it, that's 1 acre, one tiny little acre, and you're going to cram 7 houses in there, almost 8 houses in 1 little acre. Well, that changes the character of Plainfield. That gives you a character more like, I don't know, Chicago. So we have to think, the more 6,000 square foot or even somewhat 8,000 foot subdivisions that we put on in here, but definitely the 6,000 square foot ones, is this what we want for Plainfield? Do we want to change Plainfield? Do we want to change it from a suburban to an urban environment? And, I won't be voting for this as long as there's 6,000 square foot lots. So just be careful how we proceed, because if you like Plainfield now, this would set a precedent for every other developer to come on in and ask for 6,000 square foot lots. So think about it. Thanks.
Other comments? And again, I think everybody that's been involved for a while, we've had this case and a variety of proposals come before us in the past. So this is the current one, and again, the recommendation before us is to entertain a request for the major change to the PUD.
John, a question. Talking in regards to Commissioner Green's concern about lot size. Refresh my memory. In Grand Park, Somerset, what were the sizes of those lots? Do you remember? That's
I
that
believe,
Cave Hoff development.
Somewhere on the order of 8,000 square feet. This is an area that was originally platted for duplex homes and it was kind of replatted. We
So they're
have,
eight.
just for a frame of reference, a neighborhood in Chatham Square is on the order of 8,000 square feet. Section of Kingsbridge Estates, I believe, is some are a minimum of 6,400
right
square
across.
feet.
Like,
This is the lot sizes are probably average closer to 6,500 or 7,000 in areas where the alley was vacated and actually physically removed. But in staff's estimation, Chatham Square and Kingsbridge Estates are good examples of how I think product really carries the day relative to a specific calculation. I think Chatham Square, the product, really looks good. It's a great curb appeal. I think the home values are probably well above average.
At 8,000 square feet minimum?
That's correct. One neighborhood of it,
Okay.
one section.
So there's no
There-
6,000 square foot neighborhoods?
Not in Chatham Square, no.
Okay.
Kingsbridge Estates, I believe the minimum lot size is 6,400 square feet. That area hasn't built out as fully, so I think it's harder to evaluate, how it can be done, well. Staff certainly appreciates Commissioner Green's concern that the product, at the end of the day, if the product isn't in conformance with the village's design guidelines, that would be a concern to staff. But the annexation agreement and the plan development, call for appropriate architectural provisions that staff is comfortable with.
My question for you, with the 6,000 square foot lots, do you have a sense in regards to what type of product you're looking at? Is it a bigger house? Is it a smaller house?
okay, you got him to swear you in then. Please raise your right hand. Is all testimony about to give this evening the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name for the recording secretary.
Tom Small, representing the partnership TMJ.
Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to address Mr. Green's concern about the 7 lots per acre type of thing. It doesn't quite work quite that way. We have a density range in here which we match, which was per the original annexation agreement. So just so there's no confusion there.
So 43,560 square feet divided by 6,000 is how many lots? That's
Unfortunately,
math.
unfortunately, you can't look at it that way because
Why not?
that's not how, if that were the case, I could get 7 units to the acre density here, and I don't have anywhere near that. That's just not the way it works.
It's because of roads and
Because of all the other things that
all
come
the
into play. So
infrastructure
it
associated.
sounds, I would love to, if I was asking for 7 units to the acre, I would probably be doing something very dense townhomes. I mean,
And I see townhomes on here as well. Yeah,
right. But it's, you have to look at the overall gross density of the site. I just want to make that clear, okay? You know, in terms of lot sizes, where we're going, I guess, you know, when we developed Grand Park, I still think it's, in my opinion, the best neighborhood in Plainfield. And we went back in and changed the multifamily site to small lot, single family. And if you go up there today, I'm very happy with has gone on in there. The existing residents have approved of it. And it's narrow. A lot of the people building today are national home builders. That's all who is left. And a lot of them are building 40, 45-foot wide product. In some cases, it can be deeper, but that's just where the world is going today.
To
And
make houses cheaper.
no, I don't think cheaper, no. I don't think cheaper is, I don't equate cheapness with lot size. I can take you to a lot of those houses there that are on small lots. They're well into the $300,000. Now, some people may think $350,000 is a cheap home. Compared to $800,000, maybe it is. But I'm just saying, those houses, when we had the problem in 2006 in Grand Park, we put a lot more homes in there that instead of we're selling for $750,000, $800,000, that sold for $350,000, $400,000 at the time. And if you drove out there today, based on what we did and what we worked with you, and we came up with a product type that looks good. So do I think a $250,000 home done correctly is a good looking product? I can show you that product in a lot of places. But what's more importantly is, at some point in time, someone's going to come in here with a preliminary plat, and we're going to say, here is your opportunity to approve this product type. You'll get final call. And
And I think that those houses would look great on, consistent with many other development, 8,000 square foot lots. Because today you come in and say 6,000, and then if you think you can squeeze a few more lots in and make a bigger profit, you'll say 4,000 square feet. And next thing you know, you've got pretty much, little boxes with a minimum setback of greenery around them.
Well, we're not here to discuss the product that's going to be.
No, I agree. I guess
Coming
the
here.
reason why I asked that question was where I was leading to was exactly what Mr. Small said is, Grand Park. I've stated for the record that I think Grand Park is a great product. I obviously live there, so I'm somewhat biased, but I love the fact that it has so much diversification in that park, whether it's multifamily, whether it's, large residential, single family, medium size, small size. It's a sense of community, and that's what I see in this product. And the 6,000 square foot lots, they don't scare me because
Some people, they do.
I know some people
Okay,
they
please
do.
let Mr. Heine make his point.
Because what this is doing is it's allowing the diversification of, the first-time home buyers. With the 6,000 square foot lot, it's probably a little bit smaller house, smaller price point, and then they can work their way up to graduate, to those larger lots. So I like the diversification because I think this replicates, Grand Park, and I'm a big fan of Grand Park.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that the 6,000 square foot lot density ends up being fairly close to a duplex lot density? I mean,
it's really,
it's pretty close. I'm
Close.
just comparing the duplex and and it seems like it comes out almost the same.
down the road somewhere, somebody may come in and say, we want to take the 6,000 single family and make it a duplex, or vice versa. But that's basically what it is. It's a duplex lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you added the duplex back in, only because I think that's still a viable housing type. I mean, I think there's some people that, might be more comfortable having a duplex than, being on just a single smaller lot. But, I mean, density-wise, I think they almost end up, being pretty similar.
I agree. I mean, I think it has to do with the product itself too. I mean, to say 6,000 square foot lots, you're going to invite slumlords in there. I think that's a stretch. I don't think that's a stretch. Grand Park's got 8,000 square foot lots, and then Ryan Homes built the duplexes. I mean, they're great products. It's a great neighborhood. So,
And I think we have a fairly high standard for what we allow to be built in the village of Plainfield.
I agree.
Other comments from the commissioners?
One question real quick, and I forget if this was asked before. Wickaduke Trail and Ridge Road and Walker Road, I see an even Wheeler on the north side. Looks like it's on plan to be improved. Are those improvements part of this development?
Correct. So the annexation agreement, the current approved agreement, and staff would anticipate, the proposed modification would not seek to revisit that or make any changes to it. Would call for the dedication of the appropriate half-width right-of-way for the Wickaduke, and the project would participate in funding those improvements.
John, I think before you might have had a more overall map of the area, but, I mean, as far as this kind of major north-south road that winds between the two parts of the development, I mean, I guess, so north of Wheeler Road, there's nothing entitled there right now that's just farmland to the north, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so, but how about going south? Are we against Joliet's border there on the south, or is that still?
I believe that's our southern boundary, but undeveloped at that
It's
particular.
undeveloped, but I mean, obviously, even if it's part of Joliet, you would assume that,
I may be misspeaking. I can pull it up on like an aerial photo if that would be helpful. You were wondering if the Stubb Street.
well, I'm thinking of,
Opportunity
is there the chance of connectivity to the south is what I'm asking, or does this end up kind of becoming a big dead end going south?
I think that question came up last time we looked at this, right?
And I don't remember what we found out.
Well, the concept plan shows the stub there, but in just looking at this,
That is the border. What you're
What's that?
talking, southern end, that is the,
Okay, but that's vacant land to the south right now, right?
correct.
So you would have to assume that, if it develops in Joliet in the future, that there'd be, some discussion about obviously
Connectivity.
connecting south, and, because then you'd make it down to Caden Farm Road, I guess, yeah.
staff can evaluate that.
Property
Look-
that's to the south is, the parcel immediately south is vacant, but there.
Right. Okay. Okay. Okay, so,
Look at that internal road system, when that was built, there isn't what looks to be a kind of a north-south connection that was started there. So I don't think that there will end up being a major north-south road that takes us down to Caden Farm.
there might be a chance to connect and maybe swing west back out to Ridge or something. Yeah, when that other land develops. Okay. Because, I'm kind of like a meadow lane kind of a thing, where ends up becoming a, north-south route that, would be viable at least for those developments. I just wanted to thank you for incorporating the changes you made. I think at the north end, that's more what I had in mind. I mean, with the single family kind of flanking that entrance and townhomes against what I guess will be commercial in the future on that corner, if it develops. I mean, I think that makes more sense. So, I mean, I think it's a better plan, so.
I was just going to ask, I wasn't party to the last meeting, so I was going to ask kind of if you could explain the reason for the commercial going from the 20 acres down to the 10.
I guess the real reason is that, I'll let Mike explain it more, just a lot of commercial down in this part of the world, as they say. And the days of the big box are fewer and farther between. And I say that we have a lot of these around town ourselves, that it's not the way the world's evolving right now. And you do have, I'll let Mike address the other commercial we have relatively close.
Right. Originally, when the north half was approved, it was a 20-acre commercial piece, so we've reduced it down to 10, and why? At the north, well, it'd be the southeast corner of Wheeler and Ridge. John, I believe that's already been annexed, hasn't it? Yes. Okay, that's been annexed to the village, and that's slated, it's a 20-acre site for commercial, okay? Now, and we come down to Walker and Ridge, which would be the northwest corner of Walker and Ridge. That's the Harmony Ridge development. And on that corner, John, you might have to help me out. I know it's at least 20 acres, but I'm thinking it's more like 40 acres of commercial that's been approved on that corner. And then, of course, we still have, Joliet will govern the remaining two corners south of Walker. Whether they'll be commercial or not remains to be seen. But just given those two large areas that are already planned, and given the fact that we're seeing a less of a demand for commercial just because of competition, that's the background for it would be good for the project to reduce that commercial area down by 10 acres.
Thank you. I would agree based on that information that seems to make good sense. Thank you for the explanation.
Just, I mean, Mike, what do you think? I mean, give us an example of like a 10-acre commercial site versus a 20-acre in terms of what you think it could support. I mean, would a 20-acre site be big enough for a grocery store, but a 10-acre probably not?
Can I get you to just step in front of the microphone just for anybody viewing at home? Thank you.
Yeah, the 20-acre site certainly would fit a grocery store, and it would also have some outlots on it as well.
Right, okay.
10-acre site could still handle a grocery store, but what we see more often than not, it'd be one primary inline retail building, and it might have and that would be, 5 to 10,000 square foot units in there, and then there might be an outlot, one or two at the north and south ends of that.
Yeah, so for Mariano's, I know Mariano's fits on a 7-acre site, so they might have 1 or 2 outlets. And that's a 70,000 square foot building.
Other comments? At this time, Chair would entertain a motion regarding this case.
I move we adopt the findings of fact of staff as the findings of fact of the Plan Commission, and furthermore recommend approval of the requested major change to the plan development for the project known as Vista Point, subject to the 2 stipulations in staff's report.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded regarding this case. Could we get a vote by roll call, please?
Mr. Green,
No.
Mr. Menace,
Yes.
Mr. Segerbrook,
Yes.
Mr. Heinen,
Yes.
Chairman Kiefer.
Yes. Okay, this motion is approved. Please be in touch with staff, and our recommendation will go on to the village board, and they'll help you with scheduling the next session that you'll be in front of them. Good luck with your project. Thank you for coming back again this evening.
Thank you.
The last case before us this evening is a Will County case, and it's requesting input. Do we have a staff report regarding this case?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, these are infrequent, but on occasion, the Plan Commission and the Village Board has an opportunity to weigh in on a project that is going through the planning entitlement approval process through Will County or potentially Kendall County. We have an opportunity when our project is within a mile and a half of our municipal boundary to provide some input. The potential actions the Village Board could take would be to provide a letter of support or to provide a letter of objection. We could offer some recommendations in terms of requests the village may have, whether it be right-of-way dedication, construction of a sidewalk, other improvements that would help meet the village's development standards, or the village could simply take no action at all and defer to the county and its action on the case. In this case, the request is for a variance from the county that would allow for the construction of an addition to a home with an additional garage space, as well as a detached 3-car garage. The setback reduction would be on the order of 8 feet at its greatest point from the county standard 30 feet to 22 feet for a front setback variance as well. In terms of the, here we have the current home, and we have a plan view as well. So the current home would be expanded with additional attached garage, and as well, as you can see on the upper right corner here, a new freestanding three-car garage would be constructed to the rear. In staff's estimation, we would defer to the county's process in this case. We feel the request would not rise to such a threshold that it would be detrimental to adjacent properties or would be a significant impediment to development under the village's development standards if this particular property or adjacent properties were to annex into the village. As just a brief overview, in this case, staff would not be suggesting, in the absence of discussion on the part of the Plan Commission or subsequently by the village board, staff would not be suggesting that the village take the position of formally opposing the project, but would be happy to entertain any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there's no one here representing anybody with this.
No, and this is kind of a I don't want to call it courtesy review on the part of the village, and we provide, I believe in any event that the petitioner is not put on notice to attend. So.
Wondering. Do the commissioners have any comments about this case?
Question for Jonathan. I guess the setback changed down to from 25 feet 8 inches to 22 feet and 8 inches. Doesn't seem that much of an issue, but does the county allow businesses in residential zoned areas? Because I'm a little concerned as part of this development, it seems more of the new square footage is going in to make a total of 7 car garage spaces in the detached garage, the 3-car garage, and the 4-car garage. And even if the current homeowner is just an auto fan, a Jay Leno, so to speak, and has a whole bunch of classic cars that are pretty cool, they could sell it. And then you're going to have a hard time convincing the next person who might want to put in a business on the sly repairing autos or painting them or whatever, that they have to not do that. So I think we might want to question what kind of usage, a residential usage, is going to need 7 car worth of garage space for just a small, it's a single-story home, right? So that's where I think we might want to ask the county is, are they looking to get themselves a business shoehorned into a residential area? That's all I would say.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I mean, I know occasionally when we get a county case like this, I mean, we've actually had a couple of times when we've had people come to the village and want to annex to the village because they want to do something that they don't seem to be allowed to do in the county, and they come to
Kinda grandfathered in then.
yeah, and they come to the village trying to see whether they can get better relief from us. I mean, I would echo I mean, this is the point where essentially what you would call the accessory structures are almost equal or larger than the house. I mean, yeah, they're adding on, it looks like some space to the house as well, but
It could be a pole barn or whatever. We don't know if it's going to be even used for vehicles, right?
yeah, I mean, it appears to be, it's a nice site plan. I mean, it appears to be residential garage, but I mean, I think that's always a concern. But I mean, the other thing I just want to point out, and again, speaking back to, I think my time on the Plan Commission originally, or maybe even before I was on the Plan Commission originally, way back in the 90s, when the village first brought forth the concept of extending 143rd Street East over, the people that crowded that meeting and were the largest objectors were all the people that live in this unincorporated area along 126. And I mean, there were a lot of people there, very vocal. And so, it is kind of a two-sided thing because, I mean, the village may never choose to annex this area, but those people seem to feel like they have their own area there and they, exercise their sphere of influence. And believe me, if the village ever thinks about trying to extend that road again, which I still think it's a worthy project, I mean, it's something that would certainly help our transportation problems, a lot of these same people are going to be back again trying to fight it. So, You know, it may not really be relevant to this case here, but I'm just saying that, you know, obviously when you have an unincorporated area, you know, adjacent to, you know, municipal boundaries, sometimes that's the kind of thing you get. So,
Or are you looking for a formal motion from the commission or just some feedback?
Mostly feedback, you know, if there was interest in providing a recommendation to the village board that this would be a worthy case to object or to provide some recommendations
Yes.
on, you know, staff would be prepared to take that direction.
And your recommendation currently is not to take any action at this?
In staff's experience, which should not dictate,
Sure.
I shouldn't prejudge, the board may, or the commission may recall, I believe the most recent county case we had was on Main Street. It was a request to demolish a residential structure and put in a landscape supply business. Staff felt that that particular location potentially had a higher or better use. So we actually conveyed that interest to the village, to the county, and I think that project moved forward. So staff senses that the county will provide its own analysis and make its own decision based on its code, its findings of fact, and in the absence of a very strong, compelling objection from the village, you know, a minor recommendation.
Well, I certainly think it's a worthy effort on our part and your part to bring this before us and at least vet what the proposal is.
Hey, John, real quick. So it looks like they got 2 driveways. I mean, is that
Correct, and that's something that the topic's actually come up in the village for a lot. Subdivision code and the zoning code regulate the maximum width of a driveway at 20 feet at the curb or the sidewalk. But there isn't a formal prohibition on the number of driveways. And so we have a handful of courtyard loop driveways, which if you look at it, there are actually 2 curb cuts. But we had a proposal on a corner lot. It's a traditional attached garage, and the homeowner would like to put in a detached structure with a driveway from the adjacent corner side street. Staff wasn't wild about that idea, but in researching the subdivision code and the zoning code, we found no rule against it. So that's something we may revisit as we're addressing our subdivision code standards currently.
That would be wise.
And then just to expand on Commissioner Green's concern, which, I mean, I agree with him from that perspective. I mean, is there we don't have any authority of trying to put any stipulation that they can't put commercial business?
So, you know, staff's approach here is that if there were a commercial use proposed legally, if somebody were forthright and said, we would like to open up a repair shop or do detailing or whatever the case may be, that they would need to apply for a conditional use permit or something.
Okay. But they
County.
Or really any
They
commercial.
would be back in
notice,
front of
but-
us then.
That's not to discount Commissioner Green's point that you know, you can certainly anticipate something being done as a home-based business, kind of fly under the radar, and then all of a sudden you enforcement realm as opposed to the entitlement realm. So
Well, and this, the structure would carry over, but you would still, if they wanted to change the zoning or what's permitted to operate there, they would have to go through the proper procedures as well.
correct, yes. So it's a situation where, you know, as I think Commissioner Green articulated very well, if a homeowner has a desire for this number of enclosed garage spaces for personal needs, whether it be storage, accessory, you know, skidoo, boat, couple of cars, the code wouldn't necessarily prohibit that. Our code regulates, we have a maximum of 4, I believe it's 4 garage door bays.
And I think
for a-
Mr. Green was wondering about what Will County would allow in an unincorporated area with home-based businesses.
tried an analysis using their code.
Good point. Okay, well, I think you got a sense of where we are, and if anybody else wants to weigh in. Okay, well, that concludes our new business this evening. Then for open discussion, I just wanted to make a comment about the homecoming parade. We're having a really good time. Were you able to stay dry, Trustee Lamb? Of course, I was the one who told my family, we're not going to need an umbrella, leave it in the car.
Of course.
So, I guess I like to say we built some memories that day, but It was fun. It was up until the rain came, but it was nice to see the turnout. Anything else for open discussion? No. Our next scheduled meeting for the Plan Commission, we're also, I believe, have a zoning board case, will be October 18th, 2016. And the next village board meeting is October 17th, scheduled at 7 p.m. And at 8:02, we will call the commission adjourned.